Okay, so we're talking about arithmetic sequences. And these are, it's like a list of numbers that has a pattern. What we're going to do is we're going to find that pattern and we're going to write an equation that will help us find any term in that pattern without writing everything out. So, first thing, sometimes you can just go ahead and just use them, the numbers as they're written horizontally like this. But I like to write them out as in a table. So we'll call this this is our a to the n. This is our n, actually, and this is going to be our a to the n term. So our first term here is -9. Our second term is -5. Our third term is -1. And our fourth term is 3. Okay. Notice I left a little space up there, right? Because we also are going to need our 0 term. Kind of like if we went one step back, what would it be? And then we're going to look at these numbers, and it should be, we should have to add or subtract the same number to all of these to get to the next one. So what are we having to add or subtract there to get to the next term? And that works all the way down, right? So we're going to use that to also get our 0 term. So what number would this have to be so that when I add 4 to it, it would be -9? That's one way to think about it. The other way would be to go backwards. Instead of adding 4, what are we doing to get from term to term? Subtracting 4. So if you want to go backwards, do the opposite. So -9 minus 4 is -13, right? Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So now we're going to write the equation. It's a to the n equals, according to our equation here, it's the pattern times n. So this is your pattern. Is adding 4. So it's just 4n plus the 0 term, which is -13. So actually what I could put here is 4n minus 13. Now that's written a little different than the way Mr. Reed just wrote it yesterday, right? He wrote it the other way. The way he was doing it yesterday, I had him do it that way because that's exactly the way it's written on the answer keys, right? Sometimes we like to do it like this. This is a little more like the y equals mx plus b format with your variable first. So it really doesn't matter which way you write it. This is the way that the answer key is written. But if you write it with the variable term first, like the notes are saying, then that works also. Okay? I tend to like to write the variable first myself. Okay, any questions so far? Especially those that weren't here yesterday. We're doing good? Okay. So now what we're going to do, this is what's new, is now they don't want us to just find the pattern in the equation. They want us to find a specific term in the sequence. So A with a little subscript of 29 means we're finding the 29th term. and we're just going to put 29 in place of n. Okay. So 4 times 29 minus 13 . So our 29th term, if we were to continue this pattern out for 29 terms, our 29th term would be 103. So we can use the pattern to find that. We can use the equation to find that without actually having to write out all the numbers. Okay, let's look at the next one. So let's see. Term 1 is 4/3. Term 2 is 3. You know what? I'm noticing something here, though, that 3 is the only one that's a fraction. Or that's not a fraction, I mean. Can I change that 3 to have a denominator of 3 like the others? How would I do that? Times it or multiply it by 3 over 3. Put that 3 over a 1. So it would be 9/3. That's going to make it easier to look at in my pattern and figure out what the pattern is, because I may be adding a fraction here. So instead of 3, I'm going to write 9/3, 14/3, 19/3. Now with the pattern, all having denominators of 3, what I'm going to know is that my pattern is going to have a denominator of a 3. And I can just look at what's happening to my numerator. So what is happening to the numerator there? 4, 9, 14. Are we adding 5? So, and you can check that on your calculator. You can use your fraction button and do 4/3 plus 5/3. Make sure you get 9/3 if you need to. But we should be able to add and subtract fractions with the same denominator. Now I need to go backwards. So now from 4/3, I'm going to, instead of adding 5/3, I would subtract 5/3. Or 4 minus 5 is -1/3.
You go over
Okay, so now I can write my equation. A to the n equals your pattern. What's the pattern? Adding 5/3, so a positive 5/3. And what's my zero term? -1/3. And you can write it either way. I'll just put them both down there. Okay, so now we have to find our 13th term. put a 13. You can put it over 1 if that helps. Move it up. So 5 times 13 is 65. They have the same denominator, so I can just subtract the numerators. Now, can that reduce? No, because 64 is not divisible by 3. So that would be your 13th term.